Imagine every morning, you're standing in front of a bakery aisle stretching dozens of meters in the supermarket. In front of you are more than 40 loaves labeled multigrain, keto-friendly, gluten-free. For younger people, this may not require much thought. They simply grab a loaf to make it to work on time. But for someone over 60, things aren't so simple. One wrong choice is enough to spike blood sugar, cause knee pain, and lead to restless sleep night after night. A study published in 2023 by Harvard Medical School, which tracked nearly 100,000 older adults over 2 decades, showed the group who consumed proper whole grain bread daily lived an average of 2 years longer and had a 43% lower risk of heart disease compared to the group loyal to white bread. That number raises a straightforward question for us. Is the loaf of bread you hold each morning quietly healing or silently shortening your lifespan? To find the answer to that question, you'll need to understand why the body over 60 absorbs bread differently than it did at age 40. In other words, as we age, the stomach secretes less acid, and the pancreas releases digestive enzymes more slowly. Refined starches therefore break down into glucose faster, forcing insulin to work harder to handle the spike. Overall metabolism slows by 10–15% every decade, so excess sugar easily turns into belly fat, causing chronic inflammation and obstructing blood flow to the brain. Reduced insulin sensitivity leads to bigger blood sugar swings, triggering glycation, where sugar binds to proteins, stiffens blood vessels, and accelerates wrinkle formation. Slices of white bread that once seemed harmless, in middle age now become burdens. They lack the fiber needed to regulate blood sugar and no longer provide minerals that protect the heart. In contrast, slow-fermented whole grain breads or sprouted grain breads release sugar more gradually and supply B vitamins, magnesium, selenium, and beneficial bacteria, helping the pancreas work more gently, easing joint pain and preserving memory. In this video, we'll go straight into a list of 4 types of bread to eat and 4 types to avoid for older adults. I'll also guide you through how to read labels and avoid marketing traps, along with a simple 3-day meal plan. The goal is clear. Just by changing one loaf of bread, you could add many more healthy years to your life. And here is the number 1 candidate you should immediately put into your basket when standing in front of the bread aisle. 100% whole grain seeded bread is a suitable choice for people over 60 because it is both easy to find and offers clear benefits for the heart, brain, and muscles. When making this bread, manufacturers use flour that is ground with the entire bran and germ without mixing in white flour. As a result, each slice contains a full range of B vitamins, most importantly B6 for nervous system function, magnesium for stable muscle contraction, selenium for immune support, and a large amount of antioxidants like polyphenols and lignans. The seeds sprinkled on the crust, pumpkin, sunflower, chia, or sesame, add omega-3, zinc, and healthy fats, which help maintain beneficial cholesterol levels and reduce mild joint inflammation. A study published in 2024 by the Copenhagen Heart Center followed over 18,000 people for 15 years and produced remarkable results. Those who consumed at least 1 slice of seeded whole grain bread per day lived nearly 5 years longer and had a 47% lower risk of death from all causes, even though their activity levels and lifestyles were similar to those who didn't eat it. In fact, the case of Mr. Arthur, 67 years old in Minnesota, clearly illustrates this benefit. He previously had high LDL cholesterol and often forgot when to take his medication. After switching his breakfast to 2 slices of seeded whole grain bread spread with almond butter, served with kiwi and green tea, his LDL dropped by 22% in just 6 months, and his short-term memory improved. His wife noted he asked repeated questions less often. To choose the right product, look at the label. It must clearly state 100% whole grain or 100% whole wheat. If it only says multigrain or wheat bread, it may still contain white flour. Popular brands in the US include Dave's Killer Bread, 21 whole grains and seeds, Ezekiel 4, 9 sprouted grain bread, and Alvarado Street Bakery sprouted multigrain. It's best to choose refrigerated loaves, as sprouted grains make digestion easier and reduce the glycemic index. At home, store the bread in the freezer to preserve quality. Only take out what you need each time and lightly toast or warm it. The simplest way to use it is to pair it with boiled eggs, canned sardines, fresh avocado slices, or low-sodium cheese. You can also make a sandwich with boiled chicken breast and lettuce, or just spread nut butter with a few cucumber slices. Suggested serving: about 2 slices in the morning for men, 1.5 for women, depending on activity level. The fiber in the bread helps slow the rise of blood sugar and reduces mid-morning hunger. Magnesium and omega-3s support smoother muscle and joint function. Selenium boosts immunity, especially during flu season. In summary, just by replacing white bread with 100% whole grain seeded bread, older adults are already providing their bodies with a balanced nutrition package that supports the heart, brain, and muscles, without additional cooking time or significant cost. If you are already familiar with the taste of whole grain seeded bread and want to switch things up while still maintaining cardiovascular benefits, Nordic rye bread is the next option you should have in your kitchen. Rye bread is made from ground rye grains that have a thick bran layer, making it rich in arabinoxylin, a special type of soluble fiber that binds to cholesterol in the intestines and carries it out through bowel movements. Thanks to this mechanism, the body absorbs less harmful fat, and the liver doesn't have to produce more to compensate. Rye bread has a low glycemic index, causing a slow rise in blood sugar after eating, without the drowsiness or mid-morning sugar cravings typical of white bread. A 2020 study in Finland showed that people over 65 who consumed 2 slices, about 60 g, daily experienced, after 3 months, an average 16% reduction in LDL, a 22% decrease in fasting insulin, and a reduction in waist circumference due to decreased fat accumulation around the abdomen. This result closely reflects the dietary culture of Northern Europe. Finnish and Swedish people often use dense, dark rye bread as a staple food instead of rice or white bread, and they have significantly lower rates of diabetes and overweight among older adults compared to many Western European countries. When buying, look for labels that say 100% whole rye or whole grain rye. The correct type is dark brown, slightly heavy in hand, with a mildly sour smell due to natural fermentation. Avoid types labeled light rye or those mixed with white flour, as the fiber content is greatly reduced. Rye bread pairs very well with savory items. Sandwich it with smoked salmon, soft cheese, and cucumber slices, or toast it lightly and spread with ripe avocado, topped with a bit of pepper. Because rye loaves are denser than regular bread, you can pre-slice, wrap tightly, and freeze them. When needed, just take a slice out and warm it in a toaster or oven for about 2 minutes. Its crispness and aroma will remain intact. Having 1 slice of rye bread each morning, alternating with whole grain, seeded bread keeps your menu varied, while maintaining stable cholesterol and blood sugar levels, supporting the heart, brain, and muscles to stay healthy and active well into your 60s and beyond. Once whole grain and rye are already included in the diet, the missing piece to protect gut health is a slice of sourdough, the slow-fermented bread that older adults should try at least a few times each week. Sourdough is fermented using wild yeast and natural lactic acid bacteria, without added commercial yeast. During the prolonged fermentation process, the bacterial community produces prebiotic-style soluble fiber, which feeds beneficial gut bacteria. Thus, regularly eating sourdough helps balance the microbiome, reduce bloating, and limit constipation. Natural yeast also partially breaks down gluten and degrades phytic acid in bran, allowing minerals like iron, zinc, and magnesium to be absorbed more effectively, suitable for a stomach with declining digestive enzymes, as is common in people over 60. A study by the University of Toronto showed that eating sourdough for breakfast raised blood sugar, to only 45% of the level caused by regular bread, making it a less worrying option for prediabetics. A survey published in the journal Food Microbiology in 2022 recorded that elderly individuals who ate 2 slices of sourdough daily for 4 weeks saw clear improvements in chronic constipation, more regular bowel movements, and deeper sleep due to a lighter stomach. When purchasing, look for a loaf with a dark brown crust, chewy interior, and a mild sour aroma. The label should say naturally leavened or wild yeast starter. Avoid products labeled sourdough flavor or listing dry yeast packets, as those are just white bread with flavoring and virtually no beneficial bacteria. If you can't finish the loaf, slice it, wrap it tightly, and freeze it. When ready to eat, toast for 3-4 minutes and it will be crisp and fragrant like freshly baked. Sourdough is very versatile. In the morning, lightly toast 2 slices, spread with butter, and top with sunny-side-up eggs. For lunch, it can be cubed for dipping in vegetable soup or used to sandwich grilled chicken and lettuce. Anyone who enjoys baking at home needs only whole wheat flour, water, salt, and a starter that ferments for a week. Then ferment the dough overnight and bake in the morning to get a fragrant, additive-free loaf. By adding sourdough to your meal rotation alongside whole grain and rye, the gut will function more rhythmically, mineral absorption will improve, and natural immunity will be strengthened, a crucial advantage in helping the body combat illness as age advances. After whole grain, rye, and sourdough have each taken their place, there remains one final option that people over 60 should not overlook: sprouted grain bread. Sprouted bread is distinctly different from other types in the step of awakening the wheat, barley, or millet seeds to sprout before grinding. When the seed sprouts, the amount of phytic acid, a compound that inhibits minerals like iron and zinc, is significantly reduced, while natural enzymes are activated to break down starch and protein into forms that the body can absorb more easily. As a result, older adults, whose digestive enzymes have declined, experience less bloating and acid reflux when eating sprouted bread. The sprouting process also increases B vitamins. Testing by UCLA in 2023 showed that after 8 weeks of switching to sprouted bread, 73% of people over 65 had reduced bloating, blood folate levels increased by 42%, and vitamin B12 by 38%. These are 2 key vitamins for memory and the nervous system, so getting enough helps reduce tingling in the limbs and supports mental clarity. On American supermarket shelves, sprouted bread is often kept in the freezer section because it contains no added preservatives. When purchasing, you only need to take out the exact number of slices, place them in the toaster for 2-3 minutes, and they are ready to eat with a soft interior and a lightly crispy crust. Suggested portion: in the morning, toast 2 slices, spread with almond butter, and eat with banana or ripe peach. For an afternoon snack, toast 1 slice, drizzle lightly with honey, and sprinkle with cinnamon. 2 popular and easy-to-find frozen brands are Food for Life Ezekiel 4:9 and Silver Hills. Both clearly state sprouted whole grains on the label, making them easy to identify. If you're worried about switching to a new type of bread too quickly, you can alternate. The first day eat whole grain with seeds, the next day rye, then sourdough, and on the 4th day sprouted. This rotation helps the digestive system adjust while diversifying micronutrient sources. With sprouted bread, the final piece in the lineup, the bread menu for older adults is complete. Easy to digest, nutrient-rich, heart and brain supporting, and it keeps breakfast from becoming monotonous. We have just selected 4 types of bread as companions for the heart and muscles, but to truly protect your health, it's necessary to know which breads to avoid. At the top of the list is gluten-free white bread made from tapioca, rice, or cornstarch. This type of bread is marketed as safe because it contains no gluten, but its nutritional value is almost empty. No fiber, no essential vitamins, and nearly all refined starch. Its glycemic index often exceeds 90, meaning that after eating it, blood sugar spikes like drinking sugar water. For people over 60, This response forces the pancreas to release a surge of insulin. Doing this continuously contributes to insulin resistance, accelerating the risk of diabetes. In addition, the manufacturing process often adds texturizers and emulsifiers like xanthan gum and guar gum. These can cause bloating, disrupt bowel movements, and upset the balance of gut bacteria, a key factor for older adults to absorb nutrients well. The American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, AJCN, in 2022 tracked a group of people over 60 who ate 2 slices of gluten-free white bread daily for 3 months, and recorded that fasting blood glucose increased by 54%. LDL cholesterol rose by 21%, while the control group eating rye bread showed no significant change. If your doctor advises avoiding gluten due to celiac disease or gluten sensitivity, a better solution is to choose breads made from whole grains that are naturally gluten-free, such as oats, quinoa, millet, or buckwheat. These retain their bran layer, thus providing fiber and minerals. When reading labels, avoid products where the first ingredients listed are tapioca starch, rice starch, or corn starch. This signals that refined starch makes up the bulk. Whole grain quinoa bread or pressed oat bread, although a bit dry and dense, have a glycemic index less than half that of white gluten-free bread, supporting more stable blood sugar and longer satiety. With just this one change in choice, older adults can significantly reduce the burden on the pancreas, keep blood lipids at safe levels, and avoid uncomfortable bloating, continuing to enjoy breakfast without worrying about blood sugar spiking after each bite. If gluten-free white bread causes blood sugar to shoot uphill, then potato bread, though seemingly soft, fragrant, and harmless, is another curve leading directly to insulin resistance after the age of 60. Potato bread is made with white flour mixed with mashed potatoes, along with added sugar and butter to retain moisture. These ingredients make its starch digest faster than regular bread. Right after eating, blood sugar rises sharply, and the pancreas must release a large amount of insulin to quickly clear out the glucose. When this reaction repeats over time, cells become less responsive to insulin, resulting in insulin resistance, a precursor to type 2 diabetes. The added sugar and butter also increase saturated fat load, which promotes belly fat accumulation and raises LDL cholesterol. A study published in the Journal of Geriatric Cardiology in 2021 found that people over 60 who ate potato bread 3 times per week had a 37% higher risk of insulin resistance compared to those who consumed whole grain bread, despite having similar calorie intake and activity levels. Notably, the systolic blood pressure of the potato bread group also increased by an average of 6 mmHg, suggesting a link between high insulin and vasoconstriction. If you still enjoy the soft sweetness of potatoes, a safer way is to bake your own bread at home. Mix boiled mashed potatoes with whole wheat flour, no added sugar, and only use olive oil or low-fat margarine to keep it moist. Thanks to the intact bran layer, the homemade bread has a significantly lower glycemic index, and the potatoes provide potassium that helps regulate blood pressure. Another alternative is oat and flaxseed bread. Soft and airy texture, naturally sweet aroma, rich in soluble fiber to slow glucose absorption, and omega-3s from flaxseed to support heart health. When buying any packaged bread, read the label. If the first 3 ingredients include enriched wheat flour, potato flakes, sugar, or shortening, it's best to put it back on the shelf. Older adults only need to switch to breads made with whole grain flour, low in sugar and butter, to significantly reduce the burden on the pancreas, avoid blood sugar swings, and protect the blood vessels of the brain and heart from the consequences of insulin resistance. If high-starch bread and potato bread are enough to send blood sugar climbing uphill, then sweet pastries are even more dangerous, as they contain both simple sugars and harmful fats hidden beneath their golden, appealing crusts. Cakes, milk bread, and various pastries are typically made from white flour, margarine or shortening, and refined sugar. This combination triggers a systemic inflammatory response. High sugar thickens the blood, while trans fats stimulate the liver to produce more LDL. When inflammation becomes chronic, the adrenal glands increase secretion of cortisol, the stress hormone, leading to restless sleep, joint pain in the morning, and faster skin aging due to collagen breakdown. A 2023 study published in The Lancet, which tracked over 12,000 people aged 60 and older, showed that those who ate sweet pastries 4 or more times per week had a 44% higher risk of metabolic syndrome, high blood sugar, belly fat, elevated blood pressure, compared to those who ate them once a week or less. Moreover, their CRP test, a marker of inflammation, was twice as high, explaining why they often complained of joint stiffness, dry and dull skin, and poor sleep quality. If you still crave a sweet flavor, the simplest option is to bake banana oat cakes at home. Just mash 2 ripe bananas, mix with 1 cup of rolled oats, 2 eggs or 60 ml of plain yogurt, add half a teaspoon of cinnamon and a bit of baking powder, pour into a mold and bake at 180 degrees for 25 minutes. This recipe uses no refined sugar. The natural sweetness from bananas combined with oat fiber helps stabilize blood sugar, and cinnamon also supports insulin sensitivity. For variety, you can add chopped walnuts to increase omega-3 and give it a crunchy texture. Timing matters. Don't eat pastries, or even banana cake, on an empty stomach in the morning, as that's when blood sugar is most likely to spike. Instead, have it about 2 hours after a main meal, or include it in your afternoon snack, along with a cup of herbal tea to slow sugar absorption. When shopping at the supermarket, skip products that list sugar, high fructose corn syrup, or hydrogenated palm oil as the first ingredients. Replace them with low-sugar oat cookies, or fresh fruit, paired with a few almonds for longer satiety without stealing years off your life. By gradually reducing pastry consumption, older adults will notice deeper sleep, less joint stiffness, and more stable weight, all within just a few weeks. After listing 3 hidden culprits in the daily menu, the final food to avoid is also the most familiar: white bread. White bread is made from refined wheat flour, which means the fiber-rich bran and the vitamin-containing germ have been completely removed, leaving only fast-digesting starch. As a result, it has a very high glycemic index. Eating 2 slices of white bread causes blood sugar to spike quickly and then crash, often leading to fatigue and early hunger. The lack of fiber also increases the risk of constipation, especially when bowel motility has already slowed down in people over 60. Some manufacturers label it as enriched wheat flour to reassure consumers, but in reality, it's just white flour with added synthetic vitamins, which cannot replace the minerals and antioxidants naturally found in the bran layer. According to a 2022 follow-up published in the journal Diabetes Care, older adults who ate white bread daily had a 46% higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes and a 33% higher risk of memory decline over 5 years, compared to those who consumed whole grain bread. Scientists explain that fluctuating blood sugar levels cause microdamage to the brain's blood vessels, which over time affects memory and concentration. Moreover, the constant increase in insulin required to process refined starch promotes fat accumulation around the abdomen, raises blood pressure, and burdens the heart. If you're already used to the soft taste, the gentlest transition is to choose sourdough or whole grain bread made with finely ground flour. These 2 types are still smooth on the palate, but provide fiber and gut-friendly bacteria. When eating, always pair with a source of protein such as boiled eggs, shredded chicken, or mashed beans to slow down sugar absorption and maintain satiety. A slice of whole grain bread spread with nut butter and topped with a few slices of tomato will stabilize blood sugar much better than 2 slices of white bread with jam. Finally, remember to drink enough water and increase vegetables in your main meals to support smooth bowel movements. This small change helps reduce the burden on the pancreas, protect the brain's blood vessels, and maintain stable energy for daily activities in your 60s. After learning about the 4 types of bread to eat and the 4 to avoid, the next step is to go into the supermarket and choose the right loaf for your health. This section will help you read labels without falling into marketing traps. First of all, don't trust the word multigrain too quickly. This term only means that the product uses multiple types of grains, but those grains may already have been refined. If the ingredients list shows enriched wheat flour or wheat flour in the first position, the bread is still mostly made of refined flour. Similarly, wheat bread may sound like it's made from whole wheat, but in reality, it only needs to contain a small amount of brown flour, with the rest still being white flour. The phrase enriched flour indicates that the flour has had its bran removed and then had synthetic vitamins added back in. Its nutritional value is not equal to true whole grain flour. When holding the bread package, turn it around to the back and look for the ingredients panel. The rule is that ingredients are listed in descending order by weight, so the first line should say 100% whole grain wheat, whole grain rye, or sprouted whole grains. If there are added seeds, they should appear right after the whole grain flour, not at the end of the list. Sugar, corn syrup, and palm oil should ideally be listed after the 3rd ingredient to limit intake. You should also check the nutrition facts. 1 slice should not exceed 3-4 grams of sugar and should have at least 2 grams of fiber. Sodium under 200 mg is safe for blood pressure. For fat, if you see partially hydrogenated oil, put it back immediately as it contains trans fat. In the US, some brands that meet the criteria of being fully whole grain, low in additives, and easy to find include Ezekiel 4. 9 by Food for Life, refrigerated bread, sprouted grains, Dave's Killer Bread 21 whole grains and seeds, pre-sliced loaf, naturally slightly sweet thanks to fruit juice, and Silver Hills Sprouted Power, sprouted wheat, soft, suitable for weak teeth. Chains like Walmart, Costco, and Sprouts Farmers Market usually carry them. The frozen section is often where sprouted bread is placed since it doesn't contain preservatives. When you bring it home, cut the loaf in half and freeze 1 portion to prevent mold. Keep the remaining part in the fridge and consume within 7 days. With these label reading tips and suggested brands, you can confidently bring home a truly whole grain loaf that helps stabilize blood sugar, supports regular digestion, and protects heart health in the long term. Choosing the right loaf of bread is not enough. The way you combine it is the key to preventing blood sugar from spiking after a meal, especially for people over 60 who are prone to insulin fluctuations. The simple rule is to always pair whole grain bread with a source of healthy fat or lean protein to slow down the digestion of starch. The easiest example is a slice of sprouted or whole grain bread spread with half a ripe avocado and topped with sliced boiled egg. The monounsaturated fat in avocado creates a shield that allows the sugars from the bread to enter the bloodstream more slowly, while the egg adds 6 grams of protein that keeps you full longer, preventing mid-morning sweet cravings. If you prefer a mildly sweet taste, you can replace the avocado with a spoonful of almond butter and a few thin banana slices. Nut butter provides omega-3, vitamin E, and nearly 4 grams of protein per spoon. Bananas should be just ripe, sliced very thin to reduce sugar content, and the potassium in bananas supports blood pressure. Another suggestion is to spread hummus, a blend of chickpeas and olive oil, and top with roasted vegetables like bell peppers or zucchini. Hummus contains soluble fiber and plant protein, olive oil adds good fats, and roasted vegetables provide anti-inflammatory polyphenols, all of which help flatten the blood sugar peak after eating. The mechanism is very clear. When complex carbs from bread are eaten with fats and protein, the stomach empties more slowly, the enzymes in the small intestine encounter starch more gradually, so glucose is released in phases. As a result, insulin is secreted moderately, avoiding a drop that makes you feel fatigued or ravenous. In addition, unsaturated fatty acids and soluble fiber improve long-term insulin sensitivity and help control blood lipids. When plating your meal, remember the 50-20-5-25 rule. Half the plate should be vegetables, 1/4 whole grain bread, and 1/4 protein or nut butter. Drinking a glass of warm water or herbal tea after the meal helps fiber expand and supports regular bowel function. With just a few small changes in how foods are combined, breakfast or snack with bread becomes a tool for stabilizing blood sugar, protecting cardiovascular health, and helping older adults sustain lasting energy throughout the day. To turn knowledge into habit, below is a sample 3-day meal plan rotating the 4 healthy types of bread mentioned earlier, along with simple instructions for freezing and toasting. Day 1. Breakfast: 2 slices of lightly toasted sourdough topped with sunny-side-up egg and a few spinach leaves. Lunch: rye sandwich with smoked salmon, cucumber, and dill. Dinner: a bowl of pumpkin soup, 1 slice of whole grain bread spread with nut butter, plus a lettuce salad. Day 2. Breakfast: toasted sprouted bread with ripe avocado and boiled egg. Lunch: rye sandwich with shredded boiled chicken and tomato. Dinner: lentil soup, sourdough bread, and kale salad. Day 3. Breakfast: whole grain seeded bread spread with hummus and sprinkled with pumpkin seeds. Lunch: sprouted sandwich with low-fat cheese and grilled vegetables. Dinner: fish soup, plus rye bread and avocado salad. Each meal includes sufficient fiber, protein, and healthy fats to help stabilize blood sugar and keep you full longer. To save money, buy bread when it's on sale at the supermarket, slice it, divide into portions of 2-3 slices in sealed bags, and freeze for up to 3 months. When ready to eat, toast directly from frozen for 3 minutes and the crust will be crispy as new. Want to bake it yourself? A basic recipe: 300 g whole grain flour, 200 ml warm water, 5 g dry yeast, 4 g salt. Mix, let rise for 90 minutes. Shape, let rise again for 45 minutes. Then bake at 200 degrees C for 30 minutes. Swap 50 g of the flour with rye or rolled oats to increase nutritional variety. If you prefer sourdough, simply grow natural starter. 50 g flour plus 50 ml water, mix in a jar, add the same daily, ready in 5 days. Then replace the dry yeast in the above recipe. Homemade bread contains no preservatives, has a mild sour taste, and is easier to digest.